and companies are responding. Lego, one of the most successful child toy companies, educational toys, have announced their intention to shift away from plastic to sugarcane. Now, and I know a lot of people and environmentalists who will argue that sugarcane is not a sustainable alternative to plastics because it's even more energy intensive, etc. But the point is they're looking for a substitute to plastic, and one of the substitutes could well be to take discarded Legos and reuse them and make the new Legos. But they're working on this. So there's work starting to happen. Companies are starting to make commitments. This was last week, and I better put the elephant on the table here. Nestle has been named as one of the biggest creators of plastic waste. I'm from Nestle, and I feel this acutely. In fact, Nestle has reduced, over the last 5 years, 22,000 tons of plastic. This is a photograph of me in Nigeria, and this is the Milo in sachets that is sold over there. So what we did already is we started to use technology and supply chain efficiency. So we reduced the number of layers of plastic in this Milo packaging from 3 down to 2 down to 1. And in the process, we reduced the shelf life down from 18 months to 6 months. But because with technology, we could manage shorter shelf life, even in a place like Nigeria and Philippines, we were able to actually take a lot of plastic out. Is this enough? No, by no means. A lot more needs to be done. But this is a journey on which the companies are starting to walk. There are more and more companies that start to move towards a service economy. And you take Uber, Airbnb as examples of companies who are creating an entire business based on just services and not really products. The global trend towards organic, local, for food, local, authentic, artisanal. I was traveling in San Diego earlier this summer, and I saw this chocolate over there. Dark chocolate made with just 2 ingredients. This is what people are buying. They don't want the big food stuff with all this, carbon footprint and sustainability issues. They're buying local, they're buying simple. Trend towards simplicity is being driven by consumers. Aging. This is a very interesting statistic people don't realize, but it's all over the world. It's not only in US and Europe, even in Asia, even China. The number of 65-year-olds today is greater than the number of children below the age of 5. So there is a huge aging opportunity. Today in China, there are 300 million people above the age of 60. And our entire societal models, business models are designed to cater to young people. Ideals of beauty, whether male or female. That's what we're all catering to. And this is an exploding opportunity of affluent adults who are looking for service-based models, not just product-based models. Service-based models, whether it's healthcare, whether it's social community building, and those are the new opportunities that are starting to come up in the future. And go back to this chart. Who are the biggest value creators in the last couple of decades? Who are the biggest companies in the world today? Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Alphabet, Alibaba, Tencent. How many of these companies existed 20 years ago? They're the world's biggest companies. What they are doing is they're going beyond the traditional concept of a transactional, centralized business model. We sell you something, and then it's your problem to deal with the packaging. So they are actually creating value together. You think Facebook would exist if the people were not actively engaged in building Facebook? So who's building Facebook? It's you and me. We build Facebook, right? The company is just the catalyst and the conductor that puts it together. So the whole new concept of business and value creation in the future is more and more based on service. It's more and more based on co-creating with our consumers in a sustainable way that takes into account the end-of-life issues. And consumers are voting with their pockets. They are making choices more and more on this basis. So just to go back and summarize, the ultimate responsibility of business is to build trust. And the concept that I have introduced here is one of sustainable value creation. And this concept of sustainable value creation says that you can only create value sustainably for your shareholder if at the same time you ensure sustainability of the ecosystem in which you operate. And consumers are going to reward you for this, because consumers, more and more, are looking to the companies behind the brands they buy. Yeah? World over, all the big brands are declining, because consumers are going more local, they are going more sustainable, they're going more fresh, they're going short shelf life, because that's what people recognize. And there's a good business opportunity over there. Companies who look at this actually are more profitable. That's what the World Economic Forum is saying. This may be the biggest economic opportunity our species has ever seen. So the question is, what are you doing about it? And I just close close the presentation with an example. Apart from being a professor, apart from being a consultant, and I'm on the board of a few companies, I am also a small angel venture capitalist, and I'm advising a startup which is based in Switzerland, which has created a fabric that is a natural bactericide. Like the banana leaf I told you about, it just kills bacteria naturally. And this fabric has in turn been used by a NGO in India to create this very interesting product, which is a reusable sanitary napkin. And what people don't realize is that per woman, per lifetime, a woman uses 150 kilograms of sanitary napkins in the course of her usage, and this is not biodegradable. The sanitary napkins are not biodegradable. They stay in the environment forever. Right? So this is a product that an NGO has developed, and it is starting actively being marketed in India, particularly in the poorer sections of society where the women cannot afford to buy these modern day products from the large industrial companies. And no one less than Sheryl Sandberg has come out and said this is one of the biggest opportunities in fact, in changing, it's a big behavior change, because not only does business have to change to adopt this technology, but users have to change their behavior. Right? So this is just a small snapshot of some of the stuff where I myself am, on a personal basis, putting my money where my mouth is. And I open the floor to questions that you might have for, how much time do we have? A few minutes. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, as somebody once said, let's move directly to the second question, because that's easier to ask than the first one. So the second question, please. Nobody? Yeah, please. Over here.
So what do you think? You mentioned that there is a progress that customers are going to look for local solutions. And as a representative of a global company like Nestle, what do you do? What do you think? What you can do as a global company to be local?
It's an excellent question. And basically, large companies have the first umbrella point. All companies have to be willing to completely change their business models, because if they don't, they will die. That's rule number one. Large companies are no exception. In fact, the bigger they are, the harder they will fall. The second question, what are the kind of things they can do? So they should really understand what is the core know-how or intellectual property they've built up over time. It may be in quality control, it may be in recipes, it may be in nutritional understanding. But use those technologies to actually go out and address the end-of-life issues, like we spoke about in the case of Milo, where you can actually work with shorter shelf life and give people fresher products, but that means your technology has to allow you to manage the shelf life more proactively and work on long supply chains in Nigeria and in the Philippines. with products that are very short shelf life. You can apply technology to do that. And then large companies can use all of this know-how to actually start creating local solutions and local brands. And we start to see some nice examples of this around the world, but unfortunately they're still too few so far. I believe in the near future we will see an explosion of this localness, because those are the ones that consumers will vote for. And ultimately, large companies, if they don't go there, they just won't survive. Now the second question.
Thank you. So, our generation were born in the plastic time, let us say. How can we save ourselves from infection? For example, when we don't use plastic, we don't know exactly what was before plastic using times. Thank you.
Yeah, look, it's a very good question, and there are two parts to this answer. One part is biology, the second part is technology. On a biological basis, what we don't realize is that our species survived for millions of years without using plastic. Why didn't we die of infection? Why don't the cows die of infection today? They use plastic. The horses, they don't use plastic. They die. So that's the first part. So our biology actually has evolved, like in the classic H.G. Wells War of the Worlds, or the Martians come. Why did they die? They die because of bacteria. Humans don't die because we learned how to live with them. Our bodies are complex ecosystems of bacterial species. There are good guys and there are bad guys, and 90% of them live in your gut. They weigh about 3 kilos. But they manage the bad bacteria. They are the filters which allow us to deal with. So that's one part of the answer. The second part of the answer is technology. Like the last example I presented, sanitary napkins, there is where we can mimic the action of the banana leaf and create a cloth that is antibacterial. The moment you create a cloth that is antibacterial, imagine then the impact on bandages, on socks, on underclothes, on sanitary napkins, on hospital bed sheets. And all of a sudden you reduce, when you do that, you reduce the washing load, you reduce the end-of-life issues, you reduce the detergent load that goes into the environment. So there are technological solutions that are available today. So between biology and technology, I believe we will find a solution. We have no choice. Right? I think, sorry, there's a question here. Yeah.
Thank you much, Professor. It is very, very impressive, and I fully agree with your concept.
Thank you.
I preach the same, actually. But let me come to the other side, to the side of the devil. The concept you are putting forward is presupposing that we are dealing with very honest management, very honest companies with full willingness to disclose its details of operation and the consequences of the operation. What is your take on formerly greenwashing the company and now SDG washing the company?
Yeah, this is an unfortunate fact of life, that there is this phenomenon of greenwashing and people claiming commitment to SDG when in fact the reality is they're doing very different. So again, I can only at this stage offer two avenues of solution. One is to have in place, and historically we have seen this with human society, that ultimately people act only when there is a force to act in a particular way. So you cannot rule out regulatory oversight of these, assuming you can trust governments to do it in an honest way. But where it is done, Germany is a classic case in point, it is in fact done very, very well. And consumers pay for it. Eventually consumers pay and companies charge this and companies pay. But where it is done very, very well. That is one avenue. I don't think we can escape the need for some form of regulatory oversight in this process, taking best practice models that exist currently. That's one. And the second part of it, which I said earlier, is you can't fool all the people all the time. So when you start to do greenwashing, sooner or later you're going to get caught out. And when you're caught out, what happens is people lose trust in you. The moment they lose trust in you, that's the end of the road. Yeah? Nobody wants to buy your product or do business with you anymore. it's quite dramatic at that point in time. That takes time. That's a market mechanism, and that takes time. And to support the market mechanism, we probably have to work with some regulatory mechanisms, and the two have to go hand in hand. Does that make sense? Thank you. All right, thank you for listening. And